Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking one of the most intricate and deeply interconnected histories in all of fantasy, the epic 10,000-year legacy of the Avatar universe. We're not just looking at random heroes dropping into isolated moments in time. No, we're tracking a continuous, incredibly fragile cycle where the choices, compromises, and mistakes of one lifetime literally become the world-shattering crises of the next.
It's a staggering thought, isn't it? I mean, just imagine inheriting a millennia-spanning legacy of duty, power, and consequence. That is the ultimate challenge posed to every single person born as the Avatar. How do you maintain balance in a world that is constantly pulling itself apart, knowing full well that your failures will absolutely haunt your future selves? Okay, let's dive right into this and see exactly where this monumental burden began.
So, to really grasp the modern world of the Avatar, we have to rewind. A lot. We're going back 10,000 years before the Air Nomad genocide. Long before there were four nations, there was a misty, wildly dangerous wonderland known as the Spirit Wilds. Humans were literally huddled in cities on the backs of these absolutely massive, awe-inspiring giant lion turtles just trying to survive.
Our journey today covers an absolutely massive timeline. We're going to track this epic chronologically. We'll start with the very first Avatar, thousands of years in the past, and follow the cycle all the way to Avatar Korra, who's navigating skyscrapers and automobiles in a modern, industrialized world.
Our story actually kicks off with a massive mistake, right? So one, the street thief who got banished to the Spirit Wilds, stumbles across two primordial spirits locked in combat. You've got Raava, the spirit of light and peace, and Vaatu, the spirit of darkness and chaos. Tricked by Vaatu, Wan uses firebending to separate them. Oops! He accidentally frees the spirit of chaos to just ravage the world. And to fix this totally devastating error, Wan realizes he has to do something unprecedented.
Well, to fix this, Wan does the impossible. He becomes the literal bridge between worlds. Step by step, he gathers the power of air, water, and earth from other lion turtles. Then, during this crazy cosmic event known as harmonic convergence, Wan touches the spirit portals and permanently bonds his human soul with Raava's spirit. Empowered by the Avatar state, he finally traps Vaatu. But because of the endless conflict between spirits and mankind, Wan makes a fateful decision. He closes the spirit portals, physically separating the human and spirit worlds to protect them from each other.
All right, fast forward a few millennia. The world has completely transformed into the four nations we know today, and the Avatar's role, it's shifted dramatically. They aren't just fighting primordial spirits anymore. They're navigating intense, super complicated human politics. This brings us to a string of avatars whose legacies heavily influenced the modern era: Yangchen, Kyoshi, and Roku.
Now, Avatar Yangchen left us with this fascinating and honestly kind of chilling summary of her philosophy. She said, "Better to parry the sword than heal the wound it made in the flesh." We typically think of air nomads as these strict pacifists, right? But Yangchen had a highly proactive and somewhat ruthless philosophy when it came to her avatar duties. She firmly believed in stopping disasters before they happened, no matter what it took.
See, Yangchen realized that in an era of political isolation and extreme wealth inequality, playing fair just wasn't going to cut it. She fully embraced espionage and deceit to take down corrupt Shang merchants. She even foiled a terrifying plot called the Unanimity Project, where actual human combustion benders were going to be used as weapons of mass destruction. Her political maneuvering secured a whole generation without war, which is an incredible achievement. But here's the tragic ripple effect. By constantly prioritizing human politics, she allowed the physical world to be degraded, which inadvertently unleashed a horrific influx of dark spirits for her successor, Avatar Korra, to fight. Decades later, the mantle passes to Avatar Kyoshi. And fun fact, she actually goes on to live for a staggering 230 years. But unlike Yangchen, Kyoshi was abandoned on the streets to starve as a kid. This background of intense poverty and lawlessness forged her into a rough-edged, completely uncompromising enforcer of rigid justice. She didn't really do political subtleties. She dealt in absolutes. And honestly, Kyoshi's extreme methods were a huge double-edged sword. On one hand, she performs one of the most legendary feats of earthbending in history. She literally splits a peninsula from the mainland down to the magma just to create Kyoshi Island and protect her people from a warlord. Incredible, right? But on the flip side, in response to a peasant uprising, she creates the Daili, a secretive cultural police force.
This decision to prioritize brutal order was a grave mistake that would literally haunt the Earth Kingdom and her future lives for centuries. So, when Kyoshi's impossibly long life finally ends, the incredibly heavy burden of balance falls to a noble son of the Fire Nation, Avatar Roku. Roku lived in this fascinating era of technological revolution and nationalist expansion. But his era is really most defined by a deeply personal conflict that eventually reshaped the entire globe.
You see, Roku had a fatal flaw, and it's a deeply human one: indecision. Roku grew up alongside Sozin, who eventually became the Fire Lord. They were as close as brothers. So, when Sozin reveals his ambitions for brutal imperial conquest, Roku defeats him, but he spares his life out of mercy and their past friendship. It was a very understandable human hesitation. But for an Avatar, the cost of hesitation is catastrophic.
That single moment of mercy, it led directly to Roku's death, and it allowed Sozin to just unleash a century of unrestrained global warfare. 100 years of fire and ash, beginning with the horrific, total genocide of the air nomads, all because the Avatar just couldn't bring himself to end his best friend's life.
Which brings us to a 12-year-old kid named Aang. Terrified by his destiny, Aang flees his home right before the genocide and accidentally freezes himself in a massive iceberg. When he's finally discovered 100 years later, this kid who initially just wanted to go penguin sledding wakes up as the last of his people. He inherits a war-torn world that desperately needs him to clean up a century's worth of total devastation.
I mean, consider the sheer, crushing pressure placed on this literal child. Aang didn't have years to train peacefully in secluded temples. He had a ticking clock. He gets a message from his past life, Roku, warning him that Sozin's comet is returning by the end of summer. Aang has mere months to master water, earth, and fire before Fire Lord Ozai uses the comet to burn down the rest of the world. No pressure, right?
Everyone, and I mean even his past Avatar lives, told Aang he had to kill Fire Lord Ozai to restore balance. But Aang, he totally refused to compromise his sacred air nomad pacifism. Instead, in this spectacular finale, he utilizes energy bending. It's an ancient art that actually predates the elements themselves. He literally bends the energy within Ozai, permanently stripping the Fire Lord of his bending powers. He won the war without losing his soul.
But ending a 100-year war, that was really just step one. The post-war world was super messy. Decades of colonization had completely intertwined Earth Kingdom natives and Fire Nation colonists. So Aang and the new Fire Lord, Zuko, founded the United Republic of Nations. Out of the ashes of war rose Republic City, this massive multicultural metropolis where benders and non-benders from all nations could actually live together. A fragile, modern peace was finally built.
When Aang eventually passes away, the cycle moves to the water tribes, bringing us to our final era with Avatar Korra. Now, Korra steps out of a secluded training compound and right into the bustling streets of Republic City. But the world she inherits, it's radically different from anything her past lives had ever seen. This was not a world of ancient warlords anymore. It was a rapidly industrializing world of skyscrapers, radios, assembly lines, the whole shebang. And with progress came entirely new societal fractures. Korra finds herself facing this massive schism between benders and non-benders, and a society that had completely lost touch with its spiritual roots. Bending alone couldn't just punch these problems away. Because of this, Korra was forced to run a terrifying modern gauntlet. She faced villains who were driven by really complex, modern ideologies. Aemon used bloodbending to fuel a violent anti-bending revolution. Unalaq manipulated spiritual extremism just to release the dark spirit Vatu. Zahir and the Red Lotus sought pure anarchy, trying to assassinate world leaders and actually end the Avatar cycle entirely. And Kuvira used technological authoritarianism, building a terrifying superweapon powered by spirit energy. But Korra met every single one of these extremes head-on, and the choices she made permanently altered the very fabric of reality. She stopped 10,000 years of darkness by defeating Vatu. Her actions led to the miraculous return of the Airbenders, basically restoring a culture that was wiped out a century prior. And during her brutal fight with Kuvira, Korra bent the blast of raw spirit energy, literally tearing a brand new spirit portal wide open right in the center of Republic City. Ultimately, Korra makes a choice that brings the entire 10,000-year history of the Avatar full circle. Remember how 10,000 years ago the first Avatar, Wan, closed the portals to keep humans and spirits apart?
Well, Korra chose to keep them open. She undid Wan's original separation, forever merging the physical and spiritual planes. By doing this, she establishes a completely new paradigm for whatever avatar comes next.
So what does this all mean? The legacy of the Avatar is one of incredible power, for sure, but it's also a story of crushing, compounding responsibility. From Wan's primal mistake to Yangchen's political ruthlessness, Kyoshi's unyielding justice, Roku's tragic mercy, Aang's post-war restoration, and Korra's brave new spiritual era, it is all connected. The actions of one life absolutely echo into eternity. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If you suddenly inherited 10,000 years of triumphs, tragedies, and world-breaking mistakes, how would you maintain the balance? Think on that for a bit. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer. Keep exploring, and I'll catch you next time.